Can I quickly ask you men something? Have you ever asked a lady, so, when is the baby due? Just to hear that she's not pregnant? I think the average man does this at least once in his life. Unfortunately, I'm above average. Or have you ever typed a message and then send it to the wrong person? Friends, I think we all have those kinds of stories where saying something we shouldn't have. And you see, the moment your words are out, they're out. You can't take them back or make them disappear. The good news is, God has given us all a pause button for this. But what we really need is a rewind button. In our last discussion, we started a series about me and my big mouth. And the reason we are talking about it, and maybe I'm a little selfish, but I really have been struggling with this recently in a specific area of my life. So talking about it helps me stay accountable, and I'm sure I'm not the only one struggling with this. Well, to summarize last week's discussion, quick to listen, slow to speak. Come on, everyone together. Quick to listen, slow to speak. Our hand gesture, we tend to close ourselves when we're in a conflict situation. This gesture reminds us to open up, because you and the person you're arguing with wants exactly the same thing, to be heard and to be understood. By opening our hands, you remind yourself to open your ears, to open your heart, to open your mind, and be quick to listen and slow to speak. Okay, continuing where we left off last week. As we all know, words have power. They have so much power. It's undeniable. You and I are shaped by the words that were spoken to us or about us. Words shape our childhood. Words shape the quality of our marriages. Words shape your closest relationships. Words impact your self-confidence. Words determine who you see when you look in the mirror. You, as a person, are who you are because of words. People with no self-esteem ended up there because of words spoken about them. And people who had a lot of self-confidence but lost it, did so because of words spoken to or about them. And the problem we face is words don't all weigh the same. Not all words carry the same weight. I mean, how many positive words does it take to counter one negative word? How many positive things need to be said to balance out one negative thing? If I insult you once, I can give you as many compliments as I want, but you'll remember that insult. Friends, we don't just forget words that hurt, but the encouraging words, we forget those very quickly. We forget the important constructive things, but the hurtful words, the ugly sarcasm, the degrading words, they sink in deep and we remember them. So not all words weigh the same, and the origin of words doesn't carry the same weight either. What I mean by that is, it depends who says them to you. If your annoying classmate says something, it doesn't carry nearly the same weight as if your best friend says it. If your grandma says something, it doesn't carry the same weight as when your mother says it. And statistics show dads, our words carry the most weight. A father's word have the greatest impact on a person's life. What you say to your children, oh, it's powerful. So dads, watch your words, because they can make a life or break a life. Think about it. Don't you remember your dad's words more than anyone else's, good or bad? I've had conversations with people where I encouraged them, complimented them, and then they said, "Oh, thanks, Johnny, but I wish my dad could have said that." In other words, Johnny, your words doesn't carry as much weight as my dad's words. And then, the healing period of words doesn't carry the same weight either. Words heard immediately, and the healing of those words take much longer. In fact, no amount of words can cause immediate healing of hurt. If words heard, you can talk until you're blue in the face, but words don't make it better immediately, not even a simple sorry. Someone once said, you can take a plate and smash it into pieces on the floor, and afterwards you can be genuinely sorry you broke it. But the plate stays broken. Sorry didn't make it whole again. Men, we are often guilty of this. Saying what we want, our words heard, and then we say, "Oh, sorry man, it's my bad." And then we don't understand why they can't go back to the place where it was before you said it. Sorry doesn't always take away the pain. This makes it even more clear. Quick to listen, slow to speak. Your words are the most powerful thing you have. You can do more damage with your words than anything else. Your words have the power to destroy someone's life, even if you aren't in the same room as them. That's how powerful your words are. Friends, think about it. The thing you're most likely to regret in your relationships are the things you said when you were angry. Now, James, the brother of John, he wrote a letter to the first century Christians, and in this letter he is very clear and firm about how to use your words. And today we'll look at some of the words James used, and if we had just paid attention to this earlier, how much hurt could we have spared in our relationships? But if we start paying attention to it now, just imagine how much future hurt can we prevent in our relationships. James begins this conversation like this, and he says, "We all make many mistakes." Now look, if you've ever wondered whether the Bible is true or not, you cannot argue against this. This is true. We all make many mistakes. And if you think you don't, you just made a mistake. We all do. We all make many mistakes. But anyone who doesn't make mistakes with their mouth is perfect and able to control their whole body as well. In other words, if you can control your tongue, you can keep your whole body out of trouble. James, can you explain that, please? Then James continues and he says, "Okay, let me explain. We can make a horse obey us by putting a bit in its mouth, controlling it completely. In other words, if you take control of a horse's mouth, you have control of the whole animal. If you've ever ridden a horse, you'll understand this. That little piece in the horse's mouth guides the horse wherever you want it to go. It doesn't matter how small you are. I've seen little children ride horses. They can barely reach the stirrups. But even a little child can guide a horse because of the control they have over the horse's mouth. That little piece of bit in their mouths." James goes on. "Okay, don't like that illustration? Well, let's talk about ships. And a small rudder make a huge ship turn wherever the pilot wants it to go, even though the winds are strong. Now, Here's a picture of an ancient cargo ship. Now this ship could carry about 200 people and tons of supplies and cargo. And you never know which way the wind will blow. But this whole ship is steered by this little rudder. This small part of this large ship controls its direction despite the winds. What James is saying here is a bit and a rudder on their own are small compared to what they control. Small, but a big influence. So also the tongue is a small thing, yet it can do great things. Your tongue, the average tongue is about 10 centimeters long and weighs about 70 grams. I wonder if women's tongues are the same. Just kidding, just kidding. The tongue is made up of 8 muscles, and interestingly, these muscles never get tired. They are never exhausted. Anyone surprised about that fact? And yet the tongue can determine your future. Your tongue has the power over your life. Your tongue determines direction, outcome, and the quality of your life. James continues. A small spark can set a great forest on fire. Look here. Here's some images of wildfires. We know a tiny matchstick can cause millions and millions of rands in damage, as the Knysna fires in 2017 in Australia. A small flame can cause millions and millions of rand of damage and burn down acres and acres of forests. Something so small with such big impact and influence. James continues, the tongue is also a fire. It is a world of evil among the parts of the body. James focuses here on the potential of endless evil that lies in the tongue. Now next week we'll discuss the potential of endless good that the tongue can hold. But for now, James says, watch out. The tongue can destroy. It can destroy lives. Think about it. Every single bad deed can be initiated by the power of the tongue. Every evil act comes out of a word. Wars are started through exchanging of words. Then James continues, it can set your whole life on fire, for the tongue is full of evil that spread through the whole body. Your whole life, your tongue can get your whole life into trouble. Friends, if your child talks back or argues, you don't just put his tongue in timeout. Huh? You just don't send his tongue to the room, don't you? The whole body goes to the room. If your tongue isn't contained, the whole teenager is contained. You don't just discipline a tongue, you fire a whole person. You don't just suspend the tongue, a whole person is suspended from school. This is what James means here. Your tongue determines the direction of your entire life. What you say determines where you are headed. Your tongue has the potential to set your whole life on fire and destroy it. Your entire life can go up in flames. As your words are, so are your relationships. As your words are, so is your life. Your words can burn. Your words can destroy your marriage. It can destroy your relationships with your children. It can destroy your career. It can destroy your friendships. Your words have the power to destroy. And the truth is, all of us has burned the people we loved most with our words so many times. And when we are confronted about it, what do? We defend ourselves. And we defend ourselves with more words. oh man, I was just being honest. That's just how I am. I'm just a straightforward guy. Or, oh, I was just angry. Or, man, I was just drunk. Or, I didn't mean it like that. Friends, here's something deep. If you accidentally caused a wildfire, you are still responsible for the wildfire you started. Okay, James, we get it. That's enough. And James will say, there's more. People can tame every kind of animal, bird, reptile, and sea creatures, but no human can tame the tongue. What James means here is not that we can now keep all animals as pets, but as humans, we have managed to make sure that the animal kingdom does not threaten us. We are not at risk of being taken over by some animal species. Or maybe the apes, one day, if you watch Planet of the Apes. But as humans, we now know how to control animals. We know not to try and pet a wild lion. We know how to avoid a snake from biting you. But our tongues, oh my, we will never be able to tame our tongues. There will always be an unpredictable aspect when it comes to our tongues. That's why our words need to be watched carefully. And the best way to watch your words, be quick to listen and slow to speak. James continues, the tongue is an uncontrollable evil, full of deadly poison. Think about it. I'm talking to you now. I can destroy my whole career with the words I could use right now. I can say something right now, right here, and next week they will be no longer in context, maybe just in memory. My words now can determine whether I have a chance to speak in context again or not. Friends, this is the power of words. And then James says something that illustrates how ridiculous this whole tongue story actually is. He says, sometimes the tongue praises our Lord and Father, and sometimes it curses people who are made in God's image. In other words, you say you love God, but you treat the people He loves as if they aren't even human. With the same mouth, you say things like, Lord, I love you, God. And then, you idiot, can't you do anything right? This means that praise and cursing come from the same mouth. How absurd is that? But then James makes a strong point. He says, it cannot be this way, my brothers and sisters. And then he asks a question. Can a spring produce both fresh water and bitter water from the same opening? And everyone in the audience would have said, no, James, a spring can't produce bitter and fresh water. And then James asked, can you pick olives from a fig tree or figs from a grapevine? Just as little as a spring can produce both fresh and bitter water. It's as if James is saying, there's something unnaturally wrong with our mouths. Our mouths are not supposed to work the way they do. And what comes next is a shock. The end of the section. That's it. That's all James says about the tongue. James moves straight on to a different topic in this version. And you might think, wait, whoa, James, what? Isn't it? Aren't you going to say something positive about our mouths? Aren't you going to at least leave us with something positive? We hope, we want guidance, James. What should we do? But James doesn't give us a solution. He just moves on to the next topic. And I think it's because James wants us to realize there is no once and for all solution. There is constant potential for great harm and constant potential for great goodness, which we will discuss next week. But it is a constant struggle. There is no quick fix. There is no formula to tame the tongue. Your tongue must be constantly under control. You must constantly be aware of the danger of your tongue. And this is why he said earlier, be quick to listen and slow to speak. This is the only way to control your tongue. Not tame your tongue, but just to control your tongue. So what should we do now? And I'm very tempted to say, well, James didn't say anything further, so I don't know. See you next week. But what I will do, and this is where I finish, there's 3 words which will prepare us for the next conversation, because there is hope. Don't worry, there is hope. James's point is to help us understand the seriousness of this matter, the weight that lies in our tongue. So the 3 words we must remember is remember, surrender, and confess. Remember the power that is in your words. Friends, it doesn't matter what position of authority you hold. It doesn't matter what job you do or how old you are. You have power with your words. Power that can destroy. Power that can make or break someone. Remember this. Especially every time before you speak, remember this. And especially when you are angry or irritated. Remember the potential for good and your potential for evil through your tongue. And then, surrender. If this tongue is such a powerful weapon that can destroy, maybe the best thing we can do with it is to surrender this weapon to our Heavenly Father. Maybe we need to pray more for our tongues. Pray for your conversations you're going to have today. Maybe every single morning before we start our day, we should pray and ask God to help us with our mouths. Most of us work with schedules, right? We roughly know what conversations you'll have during the day. Do you pray for that conversations? Do you give your day over to God? A simple prayer like, Heavenly Father, please remind me to be quick to listen and slow to speak. And then the last word, confess. Friends, we will mess up. But instead of trying to justify ourselves or defend ourselves, confess. Acknowledge that you have messed up. Remember, this is not if you mess up. This is when you mess up. It's going to happen. Take responsibility for your words. It's your words coming out of your mouth. Your words have incredible power. Which direction are you going to use that power? So, be quick to listen and slow to speak. That's how you control your tongue.